I was trained as a cellist and a percussionist. The cellist part, in some ways, is only now coming back to the surface because I find myself drawn more toward working with string ensembles. The percussionist got me a certain amount of money and got me a certain amount of exposure, and also, as a conductor, heightened my sense of rhythm, which is something that a conductor, an ensemble, needs to have. An ensemble needs to have its own internal rhythm. I can't give it to them, but if I'm aware of it, I can help them get it for themselves. Becoming a conductor is something that sort of happened to me. I don't recall that I was trying to do it, although I recall that even as early as high school I was involved in music and very much enjoyed the sound of larger ensembles and just somehow felt that I had something to say with them. And being tall, large of stature anyway, I didn't have much trouble imposing my will on a group. Man, that sounds terrible, but I just said it anyway. And things went on from there. I seemed to be able to say the right things at the right time often enough that I was invited to work with ensembles, and things just went on from there. I will say this, it's a point of pride with me. Of the orchestras that I have conducted, I have never gone after them, they have asked me. I was invited to audition with them, and I came down to do one full rehearsal with them. I thought we had a pretty good time, and next thing I knew, Peter said, "Would you like to do it?" I said, "Sure, why not?" I knew a number of the musicians in the ensemble already. We had worked together in other places, so a number of them knew how I look at things and how I approach and what I think is important, and things just came together. During the day and many evenings as well, I am vice president and chief editor of what is actually the world's largest publisher of classical orchestral music, which happens to be located in Boca Raton, Florida. The firm's name is Edwin F. Kalmus and Company. It's almost 80 years old now. It started out some time ago, 80 years ago, as primarily a house that reprinted the music of other publishers. As times have moved on, we have changed that approach, and we are now a first-line publisher in the same sense that all the names you might know, C.F. Peters, Breitkopf and Herdel, all the European firms are, and I am the professional musician in the firm. Have been for 30 years. I get a certain amount of satisfaction from conducting an ensemble, not because of any ego, believe it or not, but because I enjoy and get a great deal of satisfaction out of putting a piece of music together, from the first rehearsal when things are not quite what you'd like them to be, to the final performance when, if things are going well, I disappear, and I mean that literally. I am just a conduit between the composer and the ensemble. And if things have worked the way they're supposed to be, then that's all I'm doing, is allowing the orchestra to express what the composer wanted. With the Sunrise Pops, there's a particular pleasure because of the nature of the music that we're doing. The Pops repertoire particularly demands a different kind of discipline from both the orchestra and from me. There's a lot more improvisational about the Pops repertoire and an orchestra that's proficient with that repertoire and that skill than there is in a classical orchestra. And these people, I've learned from them, and I'm quite happy to admit it. They've taught me things that I didn't know, and that's what I love. I'm still learning too. Sunrise Symphonic Pops concerts are a mix of styles, from classical to pop to Broadway and a great deal of jazz. We are very fortunate in this country, the United States of America, in that we have a very long repertoire, a long list, long history of music that meets the needs of people. We hear references to the Great American Songbook, which, as I understand it, refers to composers of the 30s and 40s, George Gershwin, Jerome Kern, people like that, whose music has survived the test of time and is still relevant. And there are composers working now, today. Stephen Schwartz is one that comes to mind because I'm involved with his show Wicked, that are just as valid, new, that speak the language of today in a way that no other music can. And we want to bring that music to you as well. The community of Sunrise can support the Sunrise Symphonic Pops Orchestra, first of all, by coming to concerts. And that's not as facetious a reply as it might sound like on the surface. Because if the community comes to the concerts and involves itself in the orchestra, here's what we have to offer, I think the enthusiasm that the orchestra has and generates in its concerts is something the audience will pick up and will find ways materially to help us do what we need to do in the community.